Welcome to this week's Leading with Purpose podcast. This week, I've got a slightly different guest. It's not somebody who's running a business, it's not a vice chancellor from a university, it's somebody carrying out a hugely important role for lots of young people. It's Angela Joyce, who is chief exec of Capital City College Group. We're sat in this wonderful campus right in the middle of Soho, the Mosaic campus. Angela, thanks for being part of the podcast this week. Just start off perhaps by telling us a little bit about what the college group does, but also this amazing campus that we're sat in today.
Yeah, thanks, Justine. Yeah, delighted that you've joined us here at Soho. At Capital City College Group, so we're proud to be London's largest college. We're also proud to be one of the largest colleges in the country with about 38,000 students coming to us each year. And what's fabulous about the college sector is that student body is lots of people at any age, at any stage of their journey. And I think that's one of the things that makes the college sector and further education so very special. So we've got about 10,000 14 to 19-year-olds with us. We've then got apprentices, we've then got young adults, mature adults, people upskilling, reskilling, retraining, people who are employed, people who are changing careers, people who are unemployed and want to get back into work.
Mhm.
So the fabulous thing about us is that we are the smallest part of the education system, but we have the widest reach. And certainly that's something that I see every day in our work. So we've got 12 campuses based across London. And further education, I think, in the main is probably most well known for being the technical and vocational
Yeah.
provider in that part of our education system. So we offer A levels, but we also offer a very big range of vocational and technical qualifications. It also perhaps makes us quite an expensive part of the education system, because when you're training plumbers and veterinary nurses and engineers and chefs and all of those amazing occupations, actually to resource that kind of provision is quite expensive. And I'll throw that in now because it might come on to something we're going to talk about a bit later. But yeah, I mean, we are here to support people at lots of different stages. We're very mindful at the moment around the agenda around young people not in education, training, and employment. And that's a challenge in London, as it is everywhere. And actually in London, it's not about individuals having qualifications, because actually a lot of young people who aren't in education or employment are actually graduates. So they've been to university and they've got their degrees, but actually that transition into work is kind of the challenging step. So we're doing a lot, and very mindful of that work going on at the moment from a policy perspective. Here at Mosaic Soho, it's one of our special campuses. I have to say, they're all special whenever I'm whichever one I'm at, of course.
But this is quite a new one as well, isn't it?
This year, Soho was fully refurbed. We spent about 9.4 million on this campus, probably about 12, 18 months ago now. It was closed and reopened. It's our specialist campus for digital and creative. So there's a lot of very specialist rooms, such as the one we're sitting in, which is obviously our podcast studio. The Soho campus works very closely with the industry. Obviously, Soho has a huge number of employers in that.
It's a perfect place for it, really. And I think when I came in today, I could see that there was a platform of people from the industry talking to a huge number of the students, all about careers, how to get in, what it's going to take.
Yeah.
So it was brilliant to sort of see it in action.
Yeah. No, it was not nice to see, wasn't it? Individuals coming in from industry, telling our students, inspiring our students in terms of what their journeys were, how they broke into what can be quite a challenging industry sometimes to get into. The team here do a huge amount of that connectivity really with employment, and we can't do enough of it. And we're always incredibly grateful when employers give their time to come and just talk to students, whether it's in a masterclass, whether it's in a progression talk like we witnessed earlier. As much as we can do from an employer's perspective to help our students understand what will help them to stand out from the crowd, as they go forward into employment.
And I think, I suppose I should declare an interest because I went to my local FE college. There wasn't a sixth form at my secondary school. I think that's the case for a lot of people, and I think it's just worth pointing out a third of young people will. I think it's something like 37%, 38% of young people go to their local FE college, and it does a variety of different pathways. I happen to do A levels. For me, I felt it was a really great environment to be in to help me more independently learn, like a stepping stone to what would become a university environment I would go on to next. But I think being thrown in also with students on different pathways, much more vocational routes that link to jobs, I think was really helpful to kind of give you a sense of where your destination would be. And so obviously we're sat in London, which is a really vibrant economy, lots of different opportunities. But as you say, has its own cut of the NEETs problem. And that welcome work by Ellen Milburn really starting to kind of tease out not just the numbers, but the challenges. And I suppose, for all of the stuff you and your team do every day, Angela, that's something you see firsthand. It's really the role that your colleges play in the sites to keep lives on track, often for young people from, maybe more challenging, more disadvantaged backgrounds, but all backgrounds, and they're trying to get on in life, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, that is completely what we stand for. And I think we see all the time students of all ages, but particularly young people who perhaps haven't flourished in a school environment,
Mhm.
who flourish in this environment,
Mm.
probably for some of the reasons that of when you flourished at college. I think it's a different environment from
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, yeah.
The standards are high, of course they are, and the expectations are there exactly the same from an academic point of view and an achievement point of view. But
Mm.
but I think the environment is very different, and
Mm.
there is far more connectivity, as you say, with the world of work and next steps,
Yeah.
and that say you take Soho for example. There's always things going on here, and every day is different, and that's what I think for a lot of students sees them really, really, really fly when they do come to college. Um, for us, about 65% of our students come from disadvantaged
Mhm.
wards,
Mhm.
whether that's by background or household
Yeah.
income,
Yeah.
free college meals, all those sorts of statistics. So it's a very significant proportion
Mm.
of our students that where we are very much here to drive social mobility and to take them from where they are to be the best they can possibly be. And that's I think our philosophy is that, you know, let's take everybody, everybody's an individual,
Yeah.
everybody's unique,
They've all got a path.
and that everybody's got a path. There's not one path for everybody. So let's take all those individuals and
Mm.
and help them to flourish. And our students are amazing because they genuinely have huge ambitions when they come to college, and so many of them achieve them. They come and they're very driven, and they take, I think, the opportunities
Mm.
that we present to them that, um, again, I'm a little bit biased, aren't I? But I think those opportunities in this environment
Yeah.
are significant. And I think the Milburn Review is really important next step.
Agreed. Yeah.
And colleges are, we're fixed part of a local economy, a local area.
Yeah.
We don't move our buildings around. We are institutions, we're fixed assets, we're here to stay. These colleges have been around hundreds of years. And I think we're well placed to say, well, what more do you need from us?
Mm.
And how do we lift any of the barriers that exist in it from a policy
Yeah.
perspective in our world, to make sure that, the current discussions around NEETs and sadly the very high number, of individuals who are currently NEET, that we address that and we engage them in the right way.
Yeah. There's a capacity in the FE sector that is really unique in terms of how it can support people to take those steps into employment. And I think what's interesting from my perspective, having set up the Purpose Coalition, I mean, obviously we have a lot of really different employers. And last week we were in Birmingham with a whole range of rail organisations, ranging from Network Rail to Southeastern Railways, C2C, I think Avanti with it, but all sort of actually seized of the issue, the fact that a lot of their employees are in their mid-50s. They're not, roll the clock forward and they won't necessarily be in the sector in 5-7 years' time. And so this is a sector like some others that desperately needs that next generation, and actually wants a next generation because of some of the tech savvy, you know, just talent base that it'll represent. It just being in the rail sector will change the rail sector. And so I think when you link it back to some of the work, that Capital City College Group does, and others, it's about connecting up that talent base to sectors like rail, like energy, for example, with green skills, digital, which is, now ever more interwoven with the creative sector, for example. It's just about finding these pathways at scale that people can go along, because there's certainly a lot of opportunities out there and a lot of really different careers that matter, if we can just find the ways to connect up, if you like, the employers and the opportunities back downstream or upstream, actually, to the talent that's in places like here.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. And I think, the world of work has changed, hasn't it? I mean, technology is changing things. The notion of a job for life, I think, is a thing of the
Yeah,
past.
yeah, yeah.
I think the notion that you go, you study, you get a load of your qualifications, you qualify to do a job and you stay in that job, I think that's probably gone or going.
Mhm.
So I think for us, it's about, our students, bringing them in, connecting them with the world of the work, seeing the range of opportunities that if they've got these digital skills, actually they can go and work in all of these
Yeah,
industries.
yeah. And more
Is
besides, frankly. Yeah,
exactly.
probably.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I also think, once, for us, lots of students that come to college, they then know what we do, and they might well come back to us at another stage in
Mm.
their career on the basis that actually they're probably not going to do one job, or everyone's going to
Yeah,
work for longer.
yeah.
Everybody's going to do more than one career.
Hmm.
So we need to be equipped to support people as they change.
Mm.
Not just with technology, but I just think how the employment market is and the
Yeah,
nature of roles. And as you say, there's a technologically savvy generation.
yeah,
And how do we harness that
yeah.
in the right way to help businesses of all shape and size in all sorts of industries?
Yeah, and I think and if we go back to Melbourne, I think all of it matters, because this is quite a unique generation of talent, I think, coming through, because it's the one that, in a sense, had an education pathway that was challenged by COVID. But then now, when you look ahead, it's got this employment pathway challenged by AI, reinventing lots of roles, reinventing probably in the future products. And yeah, it's probably going to be this generation that reinvents the products,
Yeah.
that we want. And so, in a sense, the talent's there. We've just got to help it navigate what are probably some unique challenges for their generation and maybe the ones after them. We'll have worked out where AI fits in. We'll know about the new products. We'll understand what the AI career opportunities are. But actually, they're the ones with industry leaders, in a sense, trying to find their way through what is literally a month by month evolving landscape. And so I think the role of FE there in almost helping them not just get the skills they need, but have the right mindset to have that resilience to sort of not roll with it, but more embrace it. Actually, this is a journey, and there's lots to be learnt on it. And actually, if you can kind of get used to navigating through highly changeable times like the ones we live in. Maybe they'll continue, but actually, in which case you need to know it. But even if it settles down a bit, eh, there are experiences that you can take into your future career with you.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I won't bore everybody talking about funding and the complexities of that, but we're funded to deliver qualifications in very simple terms. I think for me now, actually, what we need to be doing is giving young people or our students technical skills
Yep.
in whatever
Hmm.
industry, but we need to be giving them what I kind of call human skills. So whether that's problem solving, creativity, communication, all of those things that
Yep.
have been called so many different things over the years, soft
Yeah, I
skills,
mean,
and
there's sort
you
of
know,
almost one thing we now know is there's nothing soft
yeah,
about needing to be a
indeed,
creative thinker, a critical thinker, curious, proactive.
yeah, yeah.
They're hard skills, really, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think, and then I think the third one is the adaptability.
Yeah,
So
me
I
too.
think if all of our students, we give all our students technical skills, human skills, and adaptability,
Hmm.
then we will be doing a good job
Yeah,
for that future generation and supplying the future workforce, which is ultimately what we're doing. That is our
100%.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, it's in a sense helping people to create their own futures, and I think for FE in particular, it matters because we know that it's a pro social mobility part of the education system, in a sense, because of the tilt of the students that you've got, and I think that really matters too. And I suppose in a sense, the final piece of it, we talked about how important it is. I mean, it's essential for the economy. It's essential for talent and people connecting up. I guess the final piece to talk about really is just some of that policy agenda I mean, it's exciting. I think the Milburn Review, genuinely, if the solutions piece of it can be as systematic as Alan Milburn's talked about, if it can really look at that opportunity infrastructure almost that he's identified, and obviously FE for me are right in the middle of that. But I think there are other it gives us an opportunity to address other things that are almost like boring but important, I would say, for the FE college. And one of the things that is certainly, I know, on both of our agenda is just, and for people listening to this, I don't want you to turn off. But we are going to talk about tax because actually there's this anomaly on that. That would be, I think, quite a small change for Treasury to make, but would have a big impact, wouldn't it? So, do you want to explain the VAT thing, or shall I explain it?
I don't mind.
I'll kind of explain it.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So, we all know when we buy stuff, we pay VAT on it, and that's 20%. And colleges do the same, basically. Now, if you're a school, you can claim the 20% back. Most people don't realise that. And it happens through a local authority. There's a process. If you're an academy, you can claim the 20% back. But if you're an FE college, you can't. And that matters because if I'm Justine Greening in Rotherham and my school doesn't have a sixth form college, so I am going to the FE college, why should that person, in the sense, get 20% less, effectively, on their education because you're having to fund that as well, compared to if my school had offered my A levels and I could have stayed, then that would have been no VAT. So it is time, isn't it, to just say, look, it doesn't matter whether you go FE, whether you stay at school and do school sixth form. Bottom line is we want more people going to FE, getting that stage of education. So actually we should equalise it, shouldn't we? You should be able to claim the VAT back like you can if it was a school.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliantly put. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, yes, we're trying to keep the conversation about the inequity of VAT very much alive.
Mm.
We're working as a group of us with the largest colleges, and we're trying to keep that conversation very much alive at the moment. Primarily on exactly that point, there is an inequity. What costs a school for their young person, £100 costs us £120.
Yeah.
And that's, that's an inequity that I simply think needs fixing finally. And, we, as I mentioned earlier, we often deliver really quite the most expensive education as well, in terms of the kind of
Yeah,
equipment
because
that
it's
we're
very
using.
applied learning, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so, it's a lot more than just classrooms.
Yeah, 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 and so I think on the basis that year on year, around 50% of the nation's 16-year-olds go to
Yeah.
further education college, and 50% stay in a school or academy. Some years it's 51 or 49. It might be
Yep.
50, 48 or 52.
Yeah, yeah.
Broadly speaking, if you look at the data, so why is that 50% of our country's 16-year-olds? Why are they losing that 20%? We
Then you've
obviously
talked about, if you like, the kinds of young people, certainly
Sure.
in Capital City College Group. I think the stats are that, for young people who go to FE, they're twice as likely to have been on free school meals. So actually, if you really want to drive social mobility, then this is your pool,
Yeah. Yeah.
that you would look at around how do we absolutely remove all the barriers. You certainly wouldn't penalise them compared to as you said, the 50% who end up staying at school and going to school sixth form.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, it's like this project, we talked about Soho, we did £9.4 million refurbishment in here, and it's great. We pay 1.6 million in VAT. That 1.6 million would have meant more equipment for students, or it would have helped us to maintain the pace of technology in a facility like this, by being able to, have that money to continue to invest. So, for us as a college, we pay about between 4 and 5 million a year with VAT, which is 4 or 5 million away from
Yeah.
students.
It's like a number.
And it's significant. It's a significant amount of money that we could do a lot with. And obviously education is not something that can have a tax applied to it. So
Yeah.
we don't and shouldn't put VAT on students that are paying fees. So we're not, where in some businesses they are able to pass on the VAT.
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't happen for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're fighting hard on what you so articulately put, Justine. Thank you. The inequity point.
Yeah.
Let's create a level playing field
Yeah.
here.
And I think post-Brexit as well, these are the kinds of more flexible choices we've got. I mean, genuinely.
Yeah.
It's up to us to decide. It just seems, for me, genuinely a bit odd that you would have a student in school who we've decided to give pupil premium for, because we want to support that learning, because we think that that young person might be from a more disadvantaged background, and we absolutely got to put them on a level playing field. But then when they go to FE, it's literally the opposite. They have 20% effectively taken out of their per pupil learning, compared to had they been able to or wanted to stay in their school sixth form, and particularly for people who want to get into careers, they have a sense of what vocation they've got. And this is exactly what we've been trying to really develop over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years, is that vocational technical pathway. So I think I'd be interested to see what Alan Milburn comes up with in the final report, in a sense. But I just think it's a really good example of the fact that if we're going to really drive change and not just tackle this issue around young people not in, education, employment or training, but more fundamentally make sure it's a level playing field. That's all this is about. It's not about giving people a head start. It's literally about making sure people have a level playing field when it comes to getting opportunities. Then it feels to me like it's a portfolio of changes. And this surely ought to be one of them, in a sense. Because I think it's really hard to justify, how you keep the inequity there, in a way.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I mentioned earlier, no, this for me is about parity in our education system. Academic routes, vocational routes, technical routes. Let's create complete and total parity,
Mhm.
that a student, that a young person decides to stay and do A levels, is treated no more favourably and not seen any more favourably than a young person that goes to college to study a technical or vocational. The notion of going to university is not, it's not the right route for everyone.
Yeah.
Graduate unemployment is, as we know, it's quite high now. So for me, this starts with, if we're really going to have parity between academic, technical, and vocational
Yeah.
pathways, and celebrate that we need all three,
Yeah.
equal
Absolutely.
proportion, then this VAT policy needs to follow that message, because it is the same parity message. So let's create that. Let's create the
Yeah.
parity of pathway, because our young people on all three of those pathways are going to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
So let's give them all equitable chance to really, go and maximize their potential and be the best they can be.
Totally. And I think just as we finish then, for you in this role and the college group, you know, there's so many different campuses. I mean, you've really got that broad offer. Where does it go next from your perspective, Angela? I mean, it's exciting. We're literally in the middle of a revolution on careers with tech and AI. So what's on your agenda when you look ahead?
Oh gosh, lots. Yeah, I mean,
Sure it is.
yeah, I mean, look, the college does a fabulous job. I'm delighted to lead a wonderful team of people,
Mm.
who are making a difference and changing lives
Yeah,
every
every
day.
single day. Yeah.
And that makes me very proud. So more of that,
Yeah.
continuing that,
Yeah, absolutely.
making sure we keep our breadth and depth of our offer, serving all those students, any age, any stage, building on all of that, growing our work with employers and that transition to employment for the
Which is
reasons
what the Purpose Coalition can really help out. That's
and does.
the class as well.
Yeah, yeah, which is great. So I think more of that. And I think, we're starting some really fascinating international partnerships.
Mhm.
So looking at kind of the international partnerships, looking at what we need to do to support businesses, as businesses are changing
Mhm.
because of
Yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
looking at how do we continue to provide that skilled workforce in a changing environment for businesses. So I think it's continuing to do what we do for as many people as we possibly can, and continuing to build on that for London, for Greater London, but obviously, we get students from outside of London as well for our
Mm.
specialist provision. So, supporting London and the Southeast, I guess, in the main,
Yeah.
and just continuing the incredible work that my colleagues do.
Well, it's absolutely crucial. I've loved doing the podcast today, Angela. So thank you for everything that you and all of your colleagues do. I certainly know what, my FE college, Thomas Rotherham College in Rotherham, did for me. It was a crucial part of my stepping stone in my life. So yeah, it's a vital sector, and it's been brilliant having you doing the podcast today. So thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you for coming. It's nice to see you.
Pleasure. I've enjoyed looking around.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.